It was a good thing.
She was trapped in her head.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't have handled that.
Yeah, you would have been a choice.
I'd like to call to order, please, the work session, Monday, November 4th, 2013. Just so you know, the regular meeting will be following this meeting. So as I look around the table, we're all present. And the agenda item for discussion is the special project request to purchase a shade structure for Palmatier Park. Rob Bohr, our assistant to the mayor, will present.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, I'm here to talk about the purchase of the shade structure. I'm just going to do a really brief introduction, kind of give a background of this fund and the process, and then really just kick it over to you guys to have a discussion about this. But just to let you know, and I know this came up during the council retreat this past weekend, but what we refer to as the Special Projects Fund is a one-time amount of money of, at the time, $250,000 that was provided for projects that you all found to benefit neighborhoods or the community that weren't otherwise in the budget. In fiscal year 12, you all did a speed mitigation project in the North Subdivision neighborhood using that money. I think the cost was around $38,000. That's why you're left with what is today $212,000 in this special funds account. As you know, we've kind of set up a process to, if you have requests, to kind of come forward with those requests, sort of fine-tuning the process so that we can bring them to these meetings so that you all can discuss whether it's something that you want to take on using these special funds. A few weeks ago, you were all out at the Palmatier Park rededication, and that was when I understand some of the residents out there came up to some of you and mentioned the need for a shade canopy, that they were interested in that. As a result, Councilmember Stipp came back and initiated the process that we put together to use these funds for that shade canopy. So that's pretty much kind of the background of how we got to where we are. The estimated cost we have is up to $20,000 for the shade canopy. And tonight, as I said, it would just be up to you guys to kind of discuss the item. If there's consensus and wanting to move forward, then we'll move it forward in the process and look at using up to $20,000 out of that special project fund towards the shade canopy at Palmatier Park. So, Mayor, if it's okay with you, since it was Councilmember Stipp's item that he brought forward, if he wants to go ahead and initiate the discussion among council. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions about the fund or the background or anything like that. But if there's any technical questions, I know we have some staff from Parks and Recreation here too that might be able to answer some questions about the shade canopy structure itself and that sort of thing.
All right, Councilman Stipp.
Okay, here comes the bus. Rob called me this morning and said, hey, I'm going to kick this thing off and I'm going to turn it over to you. So that was my wake up this morning.
But you know how I feel every day.
Yeah.
You want some sympathy here?
No. So I just want to let you know how this all happened because this wasn't pre-planned until till like 9:30 this morning. And then secondly, it's been a long time since I've made a presentation to council, so bear with me as I go through. But essentially, we all were there. And as we looked at what the changes had been made to the park and the great job that had been done, the glaring thing that was missing was a shade structure. The trees are wonderful there, but as the sun moves south, it really doesn't provide any shade to that. So when we all were walking back talking about it and said, boy, and I was relaying the story of the request that actually came from a resident, in addition to several others, which I was able to say no to, by the way. The canopy seemed to make a whole lot of sense. So Bob Beckley said, well, we've got money set aside for a screening around the the pumping system there.
I think so.
Which would you prefer? And everybody kind of said, oh, the shade structure. So then as everyone walked away, I kind of leaned over to Bob and said, hey, I think this is one of those things we can use this fund for. So that's how we got here. Ironically, last week when we were talking about a park in a new neighborhood that was going in, the first question that Wally asked was, is there going to be a shade structure over it? So I think we've kind of mentally adopted that mindset of we're going to put it in a pocket park or a big park that we provide some shade. And it only made sense. So I just became the catalyst to bring it forward. So I guess I throw it to everybody else. But I know personally I'd like to see it move forward. I know the neighborhood would like to see it. And I think this is one of those things that definitely fits into this category of, the money for the community.
Other council comments? Sherry?
You pass it over.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, I like it filled out either.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Bill said. I think this is a great, it's not overly costly. It's very reasonably priced. I don't know how much these go for, but $20,000 out of a $212,000 fund. So I 100% agree, and thank you for bringing that forward. My only question is kind of a little separate with this fund. We have 212. We take 20 away from it, and we're almost halfway through the year by the time this would be spent. What happens to the rest of this money? Does it go to the fund for next year, or how does that work? That's just my question. I'm on board with this.
City Manager?
Yes, Councilmember Lortano answered it this way. $250,000 was the original fund that was set up for council. And the way it's been treated up until now is that we don't replenish the amounts taken out of that. It was one-time money used for that. So now that it's down to $212,000, this would further reduce it, and then any remaining balance would carry over into the next budget year, as it is today, if there's no replenishment for it.
Joe?
Do we have a park policy for these shade structures? I mean, for similar type of parks that we have throughout the city? Are we putting shade structures up? Somebody here from Park?
Bob or Nathan, can someone answer that?
I could.
What?
So let's let staff answer
No,
if
that's
you don't
fine.
mind.
No, Mayor and Council, there is no current policy for requiring a shade structure on each park.
Do we have any parks that will look similar to what we have when we put a shade structure up? Does the Loma Linda have a shade structure?
Loma Linda is going to incorporate that, yes.
Okay, they were going to have one, but none of the. How many others that would we have that have shade structures or potential shade structures? Because we have the park there off at what, Indian School, and
Yeah, let me ask.
it has shade.
Falcon Park,
Okay, I just want to see if make
That's
sure
the new one,
we're
huh?
consistent here.
Park to pause one, too. Yeah.
How you doing, Mayor, Council?
Hi,
Jeremy
thank you.
Figueroa, Park Supervisor. Yeah, most of our parks currently do have a shade structure. Some of our older ones in the communities don't. But as we're renovating them, we're adding a shade structure to them.
Okay, so in this case, somehow this one just missed the shade structure if we're renovating the old parks and including shade structures then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I just add a little bit to that?
Joanne?
Thank you. Just to, historically, I know when Sherry and I from our planning and zoning days, a lot of the new developments that were going in, it kind of became boilerplate that we kept asking for that the developers would put them in. But, historically, these are older parks. And so, granted, I think hopefully we don't have too many more of these. Maybe this was one of the last ones. But, definitely it's a good question, Wally, that you ask, and it's something that I know that we keep an eye on. So, but official policy, I guess not, but it's something we always ask for.
Sherilyn was next, Wally. Okay, sorry. Sherilyn?
Well, I just wanted to mention that when we redid Park to Pause, and another one of the kind of the same kind of park that Palmatier is, we did, and I believe it came out of a similar fund to put a shade structure in. So,
Wally?
Well, what they did to Park at a Pause was give it new life. They just put in new structures. They didn't have the budget to put in a shade structure because they replaced what was there, and there was not a shade structure in the beginning, and that's why they didn't have one. I did do my research and homework on shade structures, and they run from 2,000 to 14, 15,000. So I'm sure we can get one under 20. But what my question to you, Bob, is our procurement person here tonight?
Councilmember Campbell, they are not here tonight.
Okay. Does this have to go through procurement?
Larry Lang, our finance director that's over procurement, is here, though.
Does this have to go through procurement? Do they have to put it out to bid? Does anybody know? Jeremy?
Mayor, Council, we're working off the Mojave contract, a state contract,
Right.
to provide that shade structure.
Oh, good,
So
because you get a good price.
right. The prices have been secured for the year.
Okay.
So that's what we're working off of at this time.
Very good. Because some of these said that if you could get a different kind of a contract, they would come in lower. And I'm assuming we're trying to keep or not have maybe the same color, but the same type of a shade structure because of our sun. And, you know, they don't last forever. And these are very expensive. So I'm very happy that you're doing that. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
And in our design guidelines now, remember we do say we recommend shade structures, and every time a developer comes, we always say, "Are you putting shade up?" So,
Joe?
The reason why I was asking, I just want to make sure we're consistent because as hot as it gets out here, to be honest with you, it doesn't make any sense for the kids to be playing out there without a shade structure. So my first question was, are any other parks of similar need missing shade structures, which I don't know.
Thank you.
To
That was
answer.
my question, too.
Second question is if, as we move forward and we do any more of these parks, it would probably make sense for consistency's sake. I don't know how the others feel, to try to make sure we, as Joanna mentioned earlier, maybe, kind of incorporate, this type of requirement through in there. Because with the weather the way it is out here, as hot as it just doesn't make any sense to, first of all, that those products get hot to start with, and then the shade can help mitigate some of that.
No, I totally agree, Joe. I think it's a good idea that we change that and have that requirement so that we don't end up having a neighborhood conversation like that. Because everybody else was just going in that. I have to say, as a mayor, I was not. And the reason I was not is that we kind of are doing a new policy that we're not indicating, yeah, we can do that, okay? And the atmosphere got yeah, we can do that. And I was just a little bit set back, okay, all right, do you have the numbers in front of you? Did you know what the other communities are doing? And so there's my warning, is the way the new structure is and having to vet out everything, knowing what our cost is, and then being fair. Because if there were another park now that needed something, we've put speed bumps in that, okay, and now we did the playground, and now we're doing cover. Not that I'm not taking away the necessity of the shade, okay? I'm just saying look at this as we go through projects throughout the city that we balance it out. So that was my only concern. Absolutely, I mean, it's hot out there. And if we don't have any other small parts we have to be concerned about, but if we do, then we need a list. So we need to know where we are on that. So that if we want to use the rest of the money to pay for to fill in with the other little parks that don't have them and we're allowed to do that, then maybe that's what our goal might be for the money this year.
Mayor, Council, I believe most of our parks do have a shade structure. Any of the parks that we've been working on over the past 5 years, I'd say, give or take, have been added.
Good.
The reason why Palmatier, Park of the Paws, didn't receive a shade structure when we redid the parks because the community block grant that we received, it was not covered in that grant in order to receive it.
Now my second question is, so now the fence can't be put around the equipment. So tell me about that. Tell me, is there any danger? Just tell me what the repercussions of that and how much that adds to putting that around. And do we have other parks that, have that type of situation?
Well, the masonry wall that was discussed was an alternative. There's a cyclone fence there now with shrubbery, bushes all around it.
Okay, so there is a fence behind the bushes.
There's adequate protection now there. And there's really some concern that we have. Would a black wall be more attractive than landscaping that's there? So the decision hasn't been made to pursue the block wall at this point in time.
Okay. I just want to verify that. Yes, Sherilyn.
Excuse me. I'm a little confused. The money was there for the block wall?
There was previous, I think, $10,000 that was set aside in the water fund budget because it's a water facility there that was going to be used to construct the wall. And that went back a year, I think.
So we're really not using that money.
That's that. Okay. So do you think that, has anybody talked to you whether or not they think the wall or the fence, or was that not?
We're right now on a holding on that right now. We've talked to some of the residents. Nathan has had some discussion. There isn't a tremendous interest in
There
changing
isn't. They
that.
like the shrubbery because
It's-
it's more natural to the park. It's just like putting up a wall entirely around the entire park.
Right.
It gives that impression. All right.
That's
So the citizens are fine
That's
as
that's
it
what
is.
we've heard.
Any other comments, Sherry?
I just want to be really clear when we're talking about parks, we're talking about the city parks here for people listening. Because I know our neighborhood has some older pocket parks and parks that don't have it, but those are developer parks. So I think we want to be really clear so we don't get a plethora of requests.
Just know you had a park up there.
Yeah, we've got several that don't have them. I mean, but those were all developer, and now we require the developers put them in.
Our other park up at Australia, the public park up there, is that?
No, there's no playground equipment there. It's just ball
None at
fields.
all.
Yeah, everything up there is private up there.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Joanne?
Just one question, because there's one part that occurs to me, and I'm not sure if it's ours or who it's the HOAs. I'm not really sure, but we had back in the midst of the recession, there was a community, and I'm sorry I don't remember what development it was, but it went bankrupt. And if you remember, they had stopped building the houses, and nobody was taking care of the park. Do you recall that? Is that our
Rio Paseo Park?
Rio Paseo? Okay. Was that a completed park? Is that how Shade Street? I mean, whose is it legally, actually?
It was going to be turned over to the city.
That's what I thought. Okay.
The developer went under, I guess, in the mix of their 2-year warranty period, or they
Right.
maintain it for a 2-year period before it's turned over to the city. I believe the developer went under within that 2-year period, and then the city just stepped in and took it over just earlier than what we would have normally.
So
And
was it
does
a
have shade.
completed-
Yes. It's a
And-
completed park, and it does have a shade structure.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was all.
I go by that every day, and I just never noticed. Okay. Any other questions on this? So I guess you have council consensus that this
Very good. Thank you.
will happen. So this is not a vote, just a consensus? Is this? You're going to come back to us, so the vote. I just want to clear that up.
Yes, and we'll be coming back to you.
Nod your head or whatever. Just-
Mayor, can they come back sooner than later? I mean, do we have to
Well,
wait till
let's
after the
ask Rob.
first of the
I'm not
year?
sure when they have that on the schedule. I mean, we have a
Yeah.
council meeting coming up, another one.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to bring it back in next regular meeting, I would
Yeah.
think.
Okay,
And
good.
just
And so-
since we have a little bit extra time too, we hope to do these on a quarterly basis, the requests. So 3 months from now or whatever it is, we'll send out another email like we did previous to this one, and just see if any of you have items that you have in mind that would be a benefit to the community or benefit to the neighborhoods, and we'll come back if there are any items that you guys have or ideas, and we can come back and discuss those as well.
All right, I'm going to throw this out, and I should have asked you today. So you've got Loma Linda Park. So you wanted to take part of this funds and put it to some of the things that are happening in that area. What? I mean, since we're into the mood of parks right now, tell me about it.
Loma Linda Park, currently there's $250,000 allocated for this budget year, and improvements are being made working with St. John Vianney, working with the neighborhoods. And if you would like a specific update on that, we can bring Jeremy back up here. We also looked at it because the original price tag was $2.5 million to do all the anticipated improvements to Loma Linda. As part of that, we did do construction drawings, and we did start some improvements, but we did not have the entire $2.5 million to do it all. So we're doing it incrementally. But I would ask Jeremy, could you address what improvements are going on into Loma Linda?
Yeah, because that sounds like infrastructure for that amount of money, so.
Is he
Oh,
levitating?
we're off? Okay, here we go again, guys. You know, I was saying to my husband today, isn't it interesting how for the unintended consequences of the laws that they've made for cities, it cuts off conversations. And if this were conversation about something outside of our city, I could understand that. But it's very interesting how they have us all cubbyhole. But of course, I don't think that happens in reverse. So I do think of that quite often. So anyway, so I guess we have to zip it on this.
I would probably recommend that.
Okay. So let's put it on the schedule for the next time.
To have another work session.
To have, when we have a work session, we'll put it on there and we'll put it so that we're legally right, and then you can tell us all about it again, because I'd like to know more about the infrastructure that's being done. So, all right? So we'll meet all the state laws.
Yes, Mayor, I would ask, though, while we have Jeremy up here, are there going to be shade structures at Loma Linda for the improvements?
Yeah, the shade structures included.
How could you ask that? Lawyer?
Talking shade structures.
I just want us all to be treated fairly.
Yeah, the shade structure is included in the playground that's going in.
Okay, thank you. I know, but I can't help but jest a little bit about it, because we talk about that often, that it does prevent conversation. So, okay, that's it. So we don't have anything more on the agenda. Do we want to start it, give you a 10-minute break before we start it, and we'll just start it right at 6 o'clock? Okay, so all the other reports and so forth we'll do at the regular meeting. So adjourn for 10 minutes. We'll start the new meeting at 6. Yeah. I'd like to call to order